quiet, numbskull. I'm broadcasting.
Welcome to the podcast. So there I was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 66. What's the title of this one, Fig?
Full Throttle.
And we'll get into why here in just a minute. Sponsor this week is a new one, Babbel, at babbel.com/so there I was. I'll talk more about it during the show. Get 55% off on learning a new language. Speak a new language in as little as 3 weeks at babbel.com/so there I was. Also, while we're talking about spending money, we've got 5 people spending money on us new this week, Fig.
That's
Jonathan Knuckles.
Amazing.
New call sign for you, Jonathan Knuckles.
Dragger.
Well done, Fig. Justin Lundberg Neff. Our friend Vapor, Chuck Thompson, and Scott Southard, all new pilots on Patreon. Thank you, gentlemen, for stepping up and helping put fuel in our engine to keep us coming to you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Where else can they spend money, Fig?
Well, we got a merch store.
Yeah.
So there I was. .us/merch.
Exactly.
Hats, koozies, polo shirt, bikini, drinking glasses, coffee mugs.
Yeah.
Did I mention bikini?
Go get your girlfriend a bikini. Don't tell your wife.
Don't tell your wife.
Or get your wife a bikini and don't tell your girlfriend.
Get them both a bikini and just don't let them meet.
Yeah, that's right. It will not end well for you. Hey, we have a glossary. I put up a couple new terms up there this week. UPT, undergraduate pilot training, which is what the Air Force calls it, because Intake was talking about a friend of his. A BUNO, a BUNO, or a bureau number, which is what's on the side of an aircraft. It's the serial number of an airplane. Fig, you sent me a photo this week. That was really cool. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah.
Good, put you on the spot. Yeah.
That's okay. It was a photo of one of our listeners. Somebody took a picture of him as he had his phone out, tuned into So There I Was. They were on top of Mount Fuji.
That is cool. So here's what I want you to do. Send us your pictures where you're listening to the podcast. Hopefully not a selfie while driving. Don't do that.
Or maybe not on the commode.
No, we don't need to see that either.
We don't need to see that.
But send us a picture of a cool place you are when you're listening to the show, and we'll get it up on the website. That'll be fun. But how would they send that to us?
Well, let me see. Fig at so there I was.us.
Nice.
Or repeat
at so there I was.us.
Or sticks at so there I was.us.
Exactly. Especially with questions about the whirling dervish of death, aka a helicopter. Hey, let's talk about this week's show. This was a fun show for me. I really enjoyed it. I started off on a low note talking about a friend, Jungle Jim Ross, who once flew on the Blue Angels, who passed away recently. And he was also an acquaintance of our guest, Intake.
Yeah, and Intake kind of turned it around on you.
He did.
It's really not a low note. Let's talk about how great he was, because the man was a legend. He was legendary.
And you know what? To be legendary in the Blue Angels, now that's saying something. And
that's saying something right there.
That's the way he was. He actually had an unusual Blue Angel career. He wound up doing 4 seasons with the Blues. He got called back after he left. So he flew both the A4 and the Hornet with the Blues.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but back to this week's story. So we talked to Intake. We normally don't mention names, but his name is Scott Cartvet, and he is the author of a book
entitled Full Throttle: From Blue Angels to Hollywood Stunt Pilot.
Available at Amazon or your favorite bookstore. Enough of the shameless plugs. Go buy the book. It looks great. It looks like a great book. After talking to Intake, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to send it to him for an autograph. And at some point, I failed to do so. I will get his address up on our website, so there I was.us, in the blog post for this episode 66. So you too can send your copy of Full Throttle to Scott for signature. And 20% of the profits go where, Fig? Not to me, as I recall. Not to you.
No, sir. No, sir.
Not to him.
They don't. They go to the Blue Angels Foundation. that we learned. He is a member of the board on and very active and passionate about it. And once you hear why, you will be too. It's funding for veterans, to prevent veteran suicide, to help deal with PTSD and all other kind of issues that veterans need extra help with.
Right.
It's just an outstanding organization, and I didn't even know about it until we talked to them.
No, nor did I.
They have a 5-star rating. They have no overhead. Their profits they all work for free. So their profits go right to the organization's recipients.
Imagine that. Hold on. You donate money and it all goes to the cause you're donating it to?
Yeah, right. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, you mean, the board of directors members aren't being paid to be on the board?
Yeah, exactly.
No. It's blueangelsfoundation.org. Well, there's more of that on the podcast, but wow, what a great opportunity to shamelessly plug that organization.
This story actually goes way, way back because he was one of your flight students 30 plus years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Makes me feel really old. But yeah, that's true. Back in Kingsville, BT-22, he was an TA4 student when I was a TA4 instructor.
Nice. And then he went off, flew Hornets, had a pretty cool early career. I think he said VFA 192, I think it was, in Atsugi, Japan. They were on and off the carrier a lot, so he got a lot of hours, and he got a lot of traps, over 600 traps on a carrier.
What do you say we get out of the way and let's intake go? Because he comes out of the chute fast.
Here comes intake. Don't sit on the ejection handle. You may need it.
Don't do it.
On the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that. Thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
So there I was, 5,000 feet over El Centro, California, Blue Angel number 6, inverted, pulling down perpendicular to the Earth's surface. Our minimum altitude is 2,000 feet. I look into the heads-up display of my F-18, and I am at 1,100 feet, 10,000 foot per minute rate of descent. And that was January 16th, 2001.
So, and yet he's still here, but that is how all great aviation tales begin. Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of So There I Was. This is Repeat coming to you from New Hampshire this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whatever time it is when you're listening. We're so glad you joined us, and we can't believe how much fun we're having, and we hope you're having as much fun as well, because this show is just growing. So thanks for sharing it, and let me hand it over right now to the person who invited this week's guest on, my co-host.
Oh, you see that intake? He just threw me right under the bus. Hey,
Right, this is your fault.
Listen, this is going to be. It's me. He threw me under the bus because I invited. Come on, we've been trying. Well, I personally.
So now you got to be good. No pressure.
Trying to get intake on our show for about 6 months, and I finally cornered him, and he's motivated to do it now. So, without further ado, welcome intake.
I tell you what, Repeat and Fig, thanks for having me. I'm fired up about this podcast. And as naval aviators, no doubt there won't be enough time for all of the There I Was stories that the three of us have, but we'll squeeze in the good ones for sure.
Absolutely. It came up actually during a little bit of a pre-show chat. I'm going to take this from a high fun to a nasty sad low right off the bat. Sorry to do it, folks, but I want to mention a friend of mine who, back when my oldest was about 3 years old, I was distressed because I was going to have to go to training and be away from him for about 6 weeks when a gentleman by the name of Jungle Jim Ross opened his home and had me and my 3-year-old son stay with him and his family, and his bride Olga watched my son and his oldest boys, Kyle and Connor, spent some time with my son, and that hospitality has not been forgotten. They also have a daughter, Michael Sue, and then Hadley, and I want to mention them and ask you all to keep them in your prayers. Jungle Jim Ross recently passed. He was a fantastic friend and an incredible Blue Angel, the stuff of legend, I'm given to understand, even more so than I knew before from intakes. So thank you for indulging me with that, folks.
Yeah, repeat. I don't think that's a sad story at all, because Jungle lived a legendary life. There have been about 280 Blue Angel pilots with the team in the 77 years since they started in 1946. And Jungle is one of the most well-known stick and throttle, incredible aviators. And that is saying a lot. And I say that with great humility. I had never met him. He was a solo pilot. I was a solo pilot. I'd heard these legendary stories, one of which that he was flew inverted all the way from Houston to Pensacola on the way back from a show. But I'd never met him and didn't have the opportunity to confirm it. So I was number 5 in 2002. Fast forward to 2022, 20 years later, 2021 at the 75th anniversary. And some of his teammates were giving a presentation. And so we all got in the elevator, and there's this kind of scraggly little old guy, really long hair, members only jacket. But I turned to the guys that were dressed a little nicer, giving the presentation. I said, "Hey, I'm Scott Cartfett. I know Jungle Ross was on your team. I'd love to ask him if some of his stories are true. I heard he flew inverted from Houston to Pensacola." And they said, "Well, why don't you ask him? He's standing right next to you." So I turned right next to this guy, he's about this big, long hair. And I said, "Hey, Jungle, I'm intake." And he goes, "Yeah, it's true." And that's how I met Jungle Ross. So, the passing of him is tragic, and any loss for his family for sure. But I'm sure Jungle is smiling down on us and every other naval aviator, knowing the incredible lives that we have had to live, and that those that are starting out in naval aviation get. So,
right. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a true legend and a true gentleman in every sense of the word. And so he will be missed, but boy, there's a guy who lived life to the fullest. You know, it sounds like you might have lived some full life.
Would you say full throttle life?
A full life.
A full throttle life is documented right here in my new book, Full Throttle, From Blue Angels to Hollywood Stunt Pilot. All right, for the listeners, that's the only shameless plug I'm going to make.
Oh, we're going to get more in.
I'm going to coax a couple more out of him. Either that, or I'm going to do it for him, because it's an awesome book.
Right on.
All right.
On. So,
well, I got a lot of questions for you. A lot of questions.
Well, what's the first question we always ask, though, Fick?
Well, how did you get interested in flying intake?
Yeah, so probably like so many of our generation. No, this is no joke, and nobody ever believes it. I saw Top Gun my senior year in high school. My best friend Bob and I told all of our buddies, like a boisterous 18-year-old would, "We're going to fly fighters." And I went to Pepperdine, became an accountant, and he went to San Diego State and got his UPT slot with Air Force ROTC. And he called me and he said, "Hey, Scott, I'm doing it. We said we were going to do it. I'm doing it." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it too." And I literally hung up the phone, pulled out the yellow pages, flipped through it, called the Navy recruiter and said, "Hey, I want to fly airplanes off of ships." And from that call, I had a most fortunate career. It was unbelievable.
And so was that, what year was that? So you saw Top Gun when you were a senior.
That was May 1986, and 33 years later, July of 2019, I was flying as a stunt pilot in Maverick. I'm sure we'll get to that too.
Is that crazy? That's awesome. And so Pepperdine. So are you a California guy? Are you California?
San Diego.
California.
San Diego.
That's awesome. All right. Well, of course you wanted to be a Top Gun guy. Why not? All right. So your commission source was AOCS, right?
Yeah. So I applied to be a pilot, paid for college myself, applied to the Navy as a pilot only, got accepted. I'd worked for a large accounting firm for about a year, and this was 1991 timeframe. So Desert Storm had just kicked off, and I went to AOCS at the end of 1991, August, commissioned in November, started flight training in December of 1991, and went full throttle for the next 22 years, just accelerating along the way because the military offers just incredible opportunities.
Our paths crossed in Kingsville, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
no
were one of
kidding.
the
All
instructors,
right.
right?
Were you in VT-22 or
I was.
VT-21?
22.
And so
Golden Eagles, baby.
were you a T-45 student or a TA-4 student?
I was TA4. I was one of the last of the scooter drivers.
Okay. So I was still flying. Yeah. So that's where we passed. I was there. I was there during that time frame. I was there from 93 to 96.
You might say so. There
were
he
there
was.
the whole time. Yeah, we were there the
Right.
whole time together. In fact, for my kids, Wyatt and Nick, one of them was a Golden Eagle VT-22, now flying Super Hornets out of Lemoore. And the other
That's
one,
awesome.
VT-21, flying the T-45. And he has selected jets also. So super proud of him.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Very cool.
Well, it makes me I'm envious because I have 3 sons, all grown and adults, and not a single one of them ever wanted anything to do with an airplane.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. In my case, I've got 3, and it's the middle one is my daughter, who's the one who soloed in gliders at 15 and is now at Riddle.
Fabulous.
Working on her commercial this week, in fact. So if either you have $250,000 you can loan me, and by loan I mean give me and not take back. You just let me know.
Intake will probably write you a check once his book goes.
Yeah, right. That book's going high.
He's going to have money
Full
coming out of
throttle,
his ears.
folks. Go out and buy his book so my daughter can go to college.
You talk about full throttle, full
Who's
throttle.
making the plug now, Repeat?
All right.
I told you we're going to talk about this the whole way through.
Oh, beautiful.
So I selected F-18s, and I think I saw a picture. You must have been in your first fleet squadron because you had lieutenant bars on still, and you were kind of in the back row on the right because you're kind of a tall guy, so you're always probably in the back row or
Right.
somewhere in the back right. And it was on the deck of an aircraft carrier. I don't know if you know what picture.
USS Independence.
Was that your first? Was that your first squadron?
It was, yeah. Overseas Japan, based out of Atsugi with VFA 192.
Nice.
Unbelievable experience as a young fledgling carrier aviator because we were at sea 8 months a year. It was a phenomenal, foundational type of experience for naval aviation.
I think I read you were only able to get about 4,000 hours in the Hornet.
Slacker.
Yeah,
What a
I felt
slacker.
a little short of the
4,000 hours at about a 1.0
One per.
of sortie.
Yeah,
That's a lot
so
of getting in and getting out.
This is a crazy statistic that rarely ever comes up. But since you brought up the 4,000, when I was on the Blues, I had one airplane for 2 years, and I have about 980 hours in one Buno number, 161963. And I really wish I would have got 1,000 hours. I would have put that patch, as you know, with just the Buno number in that one airplane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I don't want to skip ahead too much, but how is it you wound up with the Blues? Well, you know what? You did.
Well, no, hold on a second.
Okay.
Let's get there. So,
Yeah. Let's don't skip ahead.
Let's see. 3 combat tours. No, 5 combat tours.
5,
So
2 in Iraq,
you
2 in
got to your
Afghanistan, 3
you
in
got
Iraq, right?
you got to your first fleet squadron in 97.
95. So February 95,
Okay.
I showed up in Atsugi, and that's a forward deployed unit. So for the listeners, they're kind of the North Korean watchdog, China at the time, Taiwanese operations, and it was just a presence all the time. And so we were gone about 8 months a year, but it was 2 weeks at a time. We treated our staterooms on the ship like an apartment.
Oh, that's
where you
cool.
it was really great. So you go out for 2 weeks, come in for a week, go out for 3 weeks, come home for 4 weeks, and you just constantly in and out for the whole 3 years that I was there. But during that time, in September of 95, is when we went over to support Operation Southern Watch, which was combat tour number 1.
Okay.
Okay. Nice. Then, well, where were you on, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Where were you on 9/11?
So 9/11, I was in Blue Angel number 6.
Oh, okay.
It was a Tuesday, if memory serves. We were practicing at NES Pensacola. We had done our brief, getting ready to do our practice, and we're walking back through the pilot room, and we see that an airplane has hit one of the World Trade Towers. And all of us thought, okay, it's just some poorly trained dentist or doctor.
Freak
What a
accident.
tragedy.
Exactly what I thought, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we jump into the airplanes and we're getting ready to take off. And in the time that we walked to the jets, the Diamond was literally in a loop at the top of the loop, which is their takeoff maneuver. 5 and 6 have taken the runway. And our maintenance officer calls, knock it off, because he had just gotten word that the FAA had shut down all airspace in the United States. And so we, 5 and 6 never got airborne. 1 through 4 land. We go back in and we realize that the second tower had been hit. Now they're on the verge of collapsing. And interestingly, as combat pilots, we immediately go into operational mode, just as I'm sure that you gentlemen did. And in the Korean War, the Blue Angels were converted to VF-191 Satan's Kittens, and they actually decommissioned for a year and went to the Korean War. And so we were looking at recommissioning as Satan's Kittens, and it takes about 72 hours to combatize a Blue Angel jet, put the gun back in, take the smoke tank out, repaint it. And we spent a solid 2 weeks putting that plan together in the event that we were needed for operations.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Hold on. Whoa. You got to repaint the jet, though? You can't look cool while you're bombing the engine?
Yeah. Well, the automotive blue and gold paint that is waxed is not radar absorbent.
Well,
You would be a surface to air missile
weird.
sponge.
That's just weird.
I'm just saying, it's the saying in naval aviation. It's better
Right.
to look good and die than live and look stupid. You wanted to look good and bomb,
That's exactly right.
95, so 96, 97, 98. So 98, 98. When did you come back from Japan? 98, 99?
90 at end of 97 is when I checked into VMFAT 101 in El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro.
Yep. To be an IP?
To be an IP as it was decommissioning. I was a landing signal officer there to teach the Marines how to land on the ship.
That's
Which, as you know, is harder
dumb.
than one could imagine.
That's exciting.
We used a lot of pictures.
Yeah, right? Hey, whoa. I think we've just been insulted, Fig. I could be wrong.
That's all right.
Can you draw a picture?
I know
of
how to
that?
find him. I know how to find him in person.
Right.
I'll sneak up on him.
Well, what's I got to jump in on that. What's the funniest, scariest, most terrifying, most amazing thing you saw as an LSO? Well, you were standing on the deck watching your friends fly.
Yeah. So, honestly, landing, I can't really think of anything because we're so offensive, if you will, to ensure that we mitigate the risk and stay in a safe envelope on the glide slope. As far as meatball lineup angle of attack is concerned. But one night I was out there and a good buddy of mine, Rico, in the back of an F-14, they launch off of Cat 1 and what the vestibular system feels as though you're pitching up because of the acceleration. And so you have to fight pushing forward. And so he was a backseater at the time. And so the pilot pushed forward and they leveled off at 60 feet at night over the water instead of climbing. And so there was a miscommunication. They thought there was something wrong with the jet. So it pulled the handle. They eject, Tomcat goes in the water. And so we go running over to the side of the ship on the starboard side, starboard stern. And I just remember looking down and seeing Rico floating by, waving up, and everybody's yelling, "Are you okay?" And all the sailors on the smoking sponson, because you have to smoke outside, they're all smoking as they're watching this guy float by. They didn't even know that somebody had ejected. It was just one of those really surreal moments.
Right.
That's beautiful. So there is a place to smoke on the deck of an aircraft carrier.
No, it's not on the deck. It's
Not
down
on the deck.
It's one notch below, right?
That's right, yeah.
It's like the catwalk. I call it a catwalk. It's not really a catwalk.
Because we had a gent on earlier that his call sign was Sugar, but he was an enlisted Marine when President Jack Kennedy took his lighter. He looks around. He goes, "Can I smoke out here on the deck of the Oriskany?" And everyone's looking at each other like, "Who's going to tell the president no?"
That there's
No smoking
gas
on the flight deck.
fumes, hydraulics, oil.
Yeah, well,
Mr. President, you can smoke. And then
they weren't actually conducting flying ops at the time. They were watching an aerial demonstration.
Nice.
It's a good,
Yeah.
Wow.
So he
Jeez.
loaned him his lighter, and Jack Kennedy took his lighter that he bought himself when he graduated from boot camp. So
That's great.
But yeah, no kidding. Wow, floating by, waving. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So from VMA T101, VMFA T101, then where'd you go?
So I had applied to the Blues in '98 and was unsuccessful. And this is just kind of a fascinating story. I'll tell it quick. So I went into the first interview. I was selected as a finalist. There's 30 people a year that are qualified to apply to the team, that do apply to the team, and they end up selecting 6 to be a finalist, and you get interviewed by the team for a couple of days actually. And so I go in there, and they had asked me the dumbest thing I'd ever done in an airplane. And I thought that I should tell them that I'd never really made a mistake and that I was really, really good. And so I told them some ridiculous story about being off altitude. V8, who's number 5 V8, who was number 5 at the time, goes, "That's it? That's your dumbest story?" And I said, "Yeah." And they didn't pick me that year. And I reapplied, and the second year. And Wolfie, who was the slot pilot at the time, was a big supporter of mine. And he said, "Hey, look, you just be honest and tell the truth, right? And be honest in your answers." And so I went in, and they asked 2 questions that I very much remember. The first one was, "Tell us the dumbest thing you've ever done in an airplane." And that story was, I was the wingman. We were doing an air power demonstration, to reference your earlier story, for the Japanese CNO who was on the USS Independence. And we were going to do a wall of water where we dropped 500 pounders in a stream.
Right.
And,
Impressive.
I was the wingman. Right. I was on the inboard side, and the flight lead had gotten us too close aboard. So we pickle our ordnance, frag the USS Independence. The Japanese CNO dives behind the admiral of our ship, of the battle group. And so I told that story, right? You want the truth? Here's the truth. Yeah, and Wolfie says, "That was you?" Because it was one of those stories that at the time a lot of people knew.
It had gotten around the whole fleet.
Yeah, for sure. And I said, "Well, yeah, it was. But let me tell you what I learned from it, as not only a combat wingman, but as a leader, and things that I would do different to help prevent it." And shifted it into a learning event. And then the second question they asked was, they brought back 2 other finalists. So there were 3 former finalists there for 2 spots. I was the youngest guy. And they said, "Hey, would you reapply a 3rd year?" And I said, "That's an unanswerable question, because what you're asking me, if I say yes, I will, then I give you the opportunity to pick the other 2 and skip me. And if I say no, then I appear uninterested." So to me, it's an unanswerable question. But let me make one thing really clear. I want to be selected to the 2000 Blue Angels. That's my goal, and that's why I'm here today. And those 2 questions I remember very distinctly. And so for your listeners, there's a couple of great lessons there. One, tell the truth. Make sure you're learning from mistakes, because the Blues don't want you to be the very best. They want you to be able to learn. And the second is certainly, defend yourself and make your position clear. So,
well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. No, I mean, that really is. It's, sorry, I disagree with the premise of your question, and here's why. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So, we had a couple of episodes with Lawman specifically about his Blue Angel experience, and his, he had us in stitches, because they harassed him pretty hard. He was the only Marine on the team at the time, and plus he was a Harrier guy. How was that experience for you as the F&G? Now, were you the narrator one year before you went to the number 6, or how'd that work? Okay.
I was. So every pilot selected to the team gets 2 years as a demonstration pilot. 1 pilot each year gets selected to be number 7, the narrator. Most people don't want to be the narrator, because you're kind of like the aide de camp to the other pilots, right? They're in the show, they're signing autographs. You're number 7. You're
the SLJO.
Yeah, you're not really, you're on the team, but you're serving the team.
Yeah.
I loved being the narrator. The number 8, I had two number 8s. Iron Shank was the first one, and Marcello Caceres was the second. So cello and Iron. And Iron and I had two F-18s with our names on it that were exclusively for our use to get us anywhere that we needed to go, that the Blue Angels needed us to be. And so I was exceptionally autonomous for an entire year with not only my own F-18,
awesome.
but a backup F-18. And I just had
and it was a lot of PR, right? Public relations stuff.
Flying
You
reporters.
were the
a lot of PR, all the media flights. I probably flew 150 people in the backseat of the F-18.
How many of them did you get to hurl?
Well, so interesting. You don't try to get them to hurl, but some of them
Of course
want,
not.
8 Gs, or normally it's the aileron rolls that
Yeah,
make people
right.
throw up. It's not the G, but
Yeah.
about 50% of the people lose consciousness, and about 66% of the people vomit. Now, so the question to you two, if I can ask a question, is: do you think the women perform better or the men perform
The
better?
women perform much better. No
Women
doubt in my mind.
all day.
By far, yeah, because I called it the testosterone factor. The guys
yeah.
get so excited because they're telling all their buddies, I'm going to fly in a jet, I'm going to fly in a jet, I'm going to fly in a jet, that they get
Okay.
so worked up hormonally that they're a mess. And the women show up, they're like, whatever, okay.
Yeah,
Have a good time.
all right. Yep. It's yeah. I totally.
Awesome.
They're just more relaxed, and they enjoy the heck out of the flight. So I enjoyed my number 7. It was wonderful.
All right. So as number 7, what celebrities did you fly?
Well, so the year that I was number 7, it's interesting. You would think a lot of celebrities would want to fly. A lot of them can't because their insurance doesn't allow them to fly.
Yeah,
even
right.
though they would
That's
like.
a bullshit story.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'll tell you 2 quick stories. The first one was a guy named David Bin. He was a long snapper for the Chargers, and we work through this series of maneuvers to get their body physiologically ready for more G, right? To see if they can handle it. We got mirrors that we're looking at them to make sure they're okay. He puked after every single maneuver for 45 minutes. And I'd go, "Dave, man, are you okay?" He'd be like, "Yeah."
How could he have any vomit left?
He'd go, "Do another one." And so I would do another maneuver. Do another one. But I said, "Man, are you okay?" He's like, "This is a once in a lifetime. I'm never going to get to do this again. I want the whole thing." And so,
Squirrel cage me.
yeah. And then, another one, I flew a producer for ABC, and it was at the end of the year. He's a big, hulking guy, really muscular. And I thought, oh, this guy, he's going to do really great. And we do the first maneuver, and I can see him turning green. And the testosterone started to take over. And I said, "Hey, why don't we take a break, look out at the horizon? I want you to have a good flight." And he goes, No, go ahead. So I go into the next maneuver. He vomited so violently that I had vomit come forward. It's not 8 feet. Hits me in the shoulder, the side of the helmet, and hits my displays. And repeat, I was laughing so hard because nobody had ever, just like you guys, I mean, uncontrollable. And I had to tell them, I'm like, "Hey, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing away." I mean, this is insane. That was a projectile helmet like nothing I've ever seen.
Oh, man. Talk about power puking. Oh, dear
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Oh, that's horrible.
So you had 2 jets, your name on them, autonomous. How many? I mean, just give me a ballpark figure. So that was one season. How much flight time did you log?
Oh gosh, Big. We would take off every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. We were the first ones to leave
to go to the site,
to go to wherever we were going. And so if we were going to Seattle, we would leave at 7 a.m. We could go anywhere we wanted. I would always take a crew chief with me. And so either Roy or Vic, and I taught those guys how to fly. Vic's mom was in El Paso, so we would stop in El Paso, have lunch with his mom, and then as long as it was efficient to get to where we were going. But we might fly 3 legs to the show site, do 3 media flights, so it was 6 flights a day. I mean, it was just it was unbelievable amount of flying.
Holy cow. Oh, man. And imagine, you enlist in the Navy, you're never going to get to fly, and the next thing you know, you're flying a Blue Angel jet because you're a crew chief for him. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I would teach him to
That's pretty
land.
awesome.
We had a lot of fun. And I'm still, as you would imagine, I'm still in touch with those crew
Yeah.
chiefs. They're amazing.
Well, several people I've talked to about it, though, said that's, obviously everyone looks at the pilots. That's the glamour job, right? But the team that makes that happen are second to none. Those guys will work.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
When the FedEx packages arrives at 11 o'clock at night, those guys are working on the jet all night to make the show happen. So
Yeah. And then the
Oh, yeah.
Marines, the C-130, the bird pilots, we could lose an engine, during a practice at 5 o'clock. They'd have to fly from Seattle back to Pensacola or to Lemoore, get a new jet, bring it back, land at 3 a.m. The maintainers are there, swap out the engine so it's ready to go for the next show. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It's
It's
NASCAR,
intense.
Formula One, all wrapped in one. It just happens to be jets.
I saw that firsthand. So I was fortunate enough to do Fleet Week in San Francisco 5 years in a row, dropping the leapfrogs.
Nice.
So we parked our Air Guard C-130 over in Oakland, right next to the Blues. And so we would go and have lunch with all the Blues maintainers and it was always catered. And we'd watch the show, and they worked their tits off. It was impressive. And they took, it was pride. It just oozed, the Blue Angel ethos oozed through everybody that was part of the organization.
Absolutely. The discipline, the commitment, the pride, the professionalism, it sets the tone for the remainder of your life, really, on what is possible.
I just don't understand how they picked you.
Your listeners are probably thinking the same thing. That guy, he tried to blow up the independents.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, you did your year as the narrator, and I'm just imagining this because I heard this spiel so many times that I can reel it off. So, the Blue Angel Diamond is on the runway. Can you do that spiel right now in your sleep?
I can do the opener since 1946.
Yeah.
The Blue
Commander Cochran calls for brakes now, burners now, smoke now, and the Blue Angel Diamond is rolling.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'm not going to make you do that. That's pretty funny.
That's crazy. Hey, so there I was, listeners. Let me talk to you about something that's likely on your bucket list, learning a new language. Now, we all know that the best way to learn a new language is total immersion. Let me talk to you about the second best way to learn a new language, Babbel. Let's face it, not everyone can jet off and live abroad. So what's the next best option? Babbel. With Babbel, you can start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. Why Babbel? Well, because it works. I forget about wasting money on private tutors or those language apps that are more like child's play. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by over 150 language experts to help you speak confidently in real-life situations. Now, even though we pilots may often act like little kids, we can't turn back time to effortlessly learn languages like we did when we were 6 years old. But fear not, Babbel is here to save the day. Let me share a hilarious example of a French phrase that often trips up non-native speakers and leaves native French speakers in fits of laughter. Thanks to Babbel, I avoided the embarrassment of mispronouncing je suis plein, meaning I am full, as je suis plein, meaning I am pregnant. But trust me, that's a mistake you want to avoid. But don't just take my word for it. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others have proven that Babbel is the real deal. In fact, just 15 hours with Babbel is the equivalent to a full semester at college. With over 10 million subscriptions sold, Babbel is the go-to for real language learning and real conversations. And here's an exclusive deal for you, our listeners. Get a whopping 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/so-there-I-was. That's BABBEL.com/so-there-I-was. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Start speaking a new language with Babbel today. Rules and restrictions may apply. What was it like the first time sitting in a blue and gold jet, though, going, like Lawman got his flight suit stapled together before he ever...
Yeah, they stapled his flight suit together the very first time he could wear it, and so did... What happened to you? What kind of shenanigans did they pull on you?
The shenanigans are deep and long-lasting and never-ending. I guess the way that I would equate it is I'd imagine it's like a rock band who is constantly on tour, right? And so there is just shenanigans and great times by the crew, the pilots, just to keep it alive. And maybe they would take zip ties and put them on your axle so you'd be driving, it'd be going thup, 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 and you find this really thick zip tie on your axle, or they take the holes from a hole punch and dump them into your AC unit. So when you turn the AC on, you get blasted by all these.
Yeah. This is rental cars. Rental cars.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Rental cars. So every Blue Angel has his. Wait, do you guys have your own rental cars, or you pair up?
We pair up. So 7 and 8 pair up, 5, 6 pair up, 3, 4, 2 and dock, and then the boss has his own car.
Of course. Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah.
So you spent your year as number 7, and then spring or winter training the following year. So that'd have been January 2001.
That's right.
Right.
And so
you went out to
we went to El Centro. So I'll finish the story.
So somewhere in there, you led with this. So I kind of want to hear how this goes.
So we're introducing a maneuver. At the time it was called the Bahi, and we would fly up from behind the crowd, climbing above them, out in front of them, roll inverted, pull perpendicular to the Earth's surface, roll 90 degrees, and cross. Seems complicated. If I had a model, it would seem very dynamic, but for a carrier pilot, it's fairly benign. But it's the first time we had flown it. We briefed it, we visualized it, we did all of our chair flying, and our minimum altitude we decided was 2,000 feet. Most of the Blue Angel, in fact, all of the Blue Angel maneuvers are done at 200 feet and about 400 knots. They could be lower, but we keep it high because we're recruiters and we want children in the spectator area to be able to see the airplanes, right? Because we're trying to inspire. Anyhow, so our minimum altitude, 2,000 feet. Well, we go blowing down. I look into the heads-up display. I see 1,100 feet. You get that tickle on the back of your neck, the hair standing
And
out.
you're still 90 degrees down?
Yeah. And so I get this, something isn't right. I look into the heads-up display. I see 1,100 feet, and I have 3 thoughts. Eject, you can't pull. And so my first thought was eject. The second one was knowing that I would have gone right into the hole following your airplane. So I just pulled for everything I was worth. Any guesses? Repeat. How low do you think I got? Remember, the minimum altitude was 2,000 for this maneuver.
Yeah. It
Take
was
a
kind of
guess.
speed. Doing the math just off the top of my head, I'm guessing under 500 feet.
Okay. Any guesses?
Yeah, I'm going to say 100 feet.
Okay. Yeah, those are all high. So the radar altimeter.
High?
Yeah. The radar altimeter on the F-18 records into the black box every 3/4 of a second. And when they pulled the black box to look at the tapes, the minimum altitude was 27 feet. So 1,973 feet below the absolute minimum. We obviously
27 feet is where you bottomed out.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, dear God.
And
Good Lord.
yeah. And so, I'm confident, having seen the tape, that I got into some semblance of ground effect, fly away, we go back, we land, we stop flight operations for the day. We have a discussion where, how did it happen? Why did it happen? And are there any other maneuvers that are at risk for similar conditions?
Was this a new maneuver, by the way, intake? Was it new?
It was introduced in 2000.
Okay.
And it wasn't that entertaining to look at. It was hard to make it hit correctly.
Yeah.
And so that was the last time it was flown, because the risk was far greater than what the wow factor that anybody would get. And so anyhow, I was flying the next day. We debriefed it. We had a very thorough debrief. The whole team
Good Lord.
went home, went to bed, back the next day, boom, right back at it, back to training.
It's a different world.
It flashed a thought. I looked at the pictures you sent with the email. There's one picture, and I mean, it is almost perfect, of you guys, the solo guys, passing. I don't know what maneuver it is, but you're passing in front of the crowd, and you're both 90-degree plan form, and whoever took the picture took it perfectly, because you guys were right at the cross, and it looks like you're right on top of each other. It's sick, right?
Yeah, I know exactly the picture you're talking about, because I use it often. And that's Dino and I. He was 6, I was 5, and it just happened to be one of those images or pulled off of a video at the time. However, any Blue Angel would see it and go, yeah, that was me. That was me. Because it's hard to, unless somebody hands it to you and go, I took this yesterday of you. It's pretty hard.
Is this the same Dino that was SWAT pilot
was
with
94, 95?
No. You're talking about
different
Dino. Yep.
Different Dino.
Okay. I was going to say, wow,
The Flintstones got a new
glutton
dog
for punishment. Nice. Well, that whole story you just told, the 27 feet, my palms are wet right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just thinking about that. I remember a couple times getting that. We get
the
this
classic aviation Swiss cheese model, right? One thing followed by another thing, followed by another thing, followed by another thing, and death by 1,000 slashes. But missed
when
it.
Those holes line
survived by that much.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody that flew tactical jets has that one moment where you go like, whew, that was close.
That was closer than it should have been. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when you have them over and over and over, you're probably you might have an issue.
That it might be you.
It might be you. It might not be the Swiss cheese thing anymore.
I don't know how many milliseconds 27 feet is at those speeds, though.
Repeat someday. I'll show you the video because I happen to have the video. And for the listeners that are going, man, I wish they'd post it. No chance. But you can imagine that it's scary. And I saw it about 5 years after it happened, and I thought it would be neat to see it. And to tell you the truth, I almost vomited.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was that
close.
It was that close.
Yeah, it sounds to me like that's as close as you'd come without actually Morton.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's right.
So you didn't die in training, and you did 2 years as a opposing solo, one as 6 and then one as 5 as the lead solo, right?
As a lead solo.
So how that was a lot. That was a lot. So 3 years. Well, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I've got a question.
Well, okay.
I want you to validate something.
Okay.
I guess that
this is what Lawman said.
Angel? Yeah. What's the worst part and what's the best part of being a Blue Angel?
Yeah. All right. I wasn't going to go there, but let's go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The day that you get hired and the day that you depart the team.
Pretty much.
I think it's kind of common, but I mean, it takes its toll. For the listeners, number 7 leaves every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., gets home Sunday night. Monday is the one day off, and if there's a maintenance issue that has to be checked, number 7 does the maintenance flight. So, I mean, it's a crazy busy year. And then when you're in the demonstration, when I was 6 and 5, you're still leaving on Thursdays. And so for 3 years, I was never home for more than 3 days straight, except between November 15th and January 3rd.
Isn't that crazy?
When we would be, from the end of one season until we went to winter training. And so I think it's really hard on the families, but my wife, Lisa, was exceptional. The kids all enjoyed it. We lived in the same cul-de-sac on base, and, they made it work. But
that's cool.
Where
did you meet your wife?
Pepperdine.
Okay.
That's not true. Okay. She went to Pepperdine. We met on the ski slopes in Steamboat Spring or Steamboat, Colorado, on a Pepperdine ski trip.
Okay.
Didn't start dating, but that's where I met her.
That's way cool. And obviously, same wife. You guys stayed together even through all the deployments and everything.
Yep.
Well,
31 years last week, actually.
Congratulations.
Well done, sir.
Yeah,
well played. You obviously married way above your pay grade. As we all did, and well done, well done.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Repeat before I start asking more questions. Do you have anything else about you want to talk about the Blues?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. That's fascinating flying and a great recruiting tool. But I want to hear more about let me ask this: what was your best job? And I bet it wasn't the Blues. What was your best job in the Navy?
Oh, I can tell you what it is right now without having me saying.
So can I?
Go ahead, but I want to hear you say it.
Yeah, for me, it was operational command of an F-18 unit, and so We were deployed 13 of 17 months. We did back-to-back tours, and we were gone a lot, and it was hard, again, on the sailors. And
Where were you
families,
based at the time? Where were you based?
We were based out of Virginia Beach.
Oh, wow.
We did back-to-back pumps, back-to-back to Afghanistan. But it's interesting, and it's a nice segue from the Blues, because I'm probably my name is most recognized from the Blue Angels,
Sure.
but I am by far and away most proud of the combat operations. And having command and keeping the sailors motivated during 13 of 17 months. So,
Yeah, that's rough, man.
but we were doing great work, and we valued and respected the sailors and the time that they did have at home so that they could commit themselves wholly. We incorporated the families into that, the entire commitment, if you will.
Mhm.
And it was just a marvelous time.
So intake, what did
And
oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
I was going to say, and we did some good work on behalf of the United States.
Well, that's my next question. Give me a average combat sortie, what it looked like for somebody in your squadron to fly a combat sortie into Afghanistan.
Yeah, so I'll transition you from the Blues into Shock and Awe 2003. So I leave the Blues in 2005. I hang up the number 5 flight suit, and I go to the Fleet Replacement Squadron to get operationally trained on employing the F-18 as a weapons system. But Shock and Awe was getting ready to kick off, and I was headed to my department tour, and I show up to go through a full syllabus because all I've done is fly for the Blues for 3 years. And they're like, hey, intake, you are going out to the USS Stennis. You're going to get your carrier qualification, and then you're going to join the USS Roosevelt in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea for Shock and Awe. And I said, yeah, I haven't done any weapons training at all. I mean, GPS weapons, laser guided weapons, they're all brand new from when I was flying before. I mean, and they're like, yeah, but you're a Blue Angel. And I said, yeah, so if you want to scare the enemy by having me fly over them upside down at 200 feet, then I'm your guy. I'm the best in the Navy. But if you
want me to hit a target with a bomb, you better train me.
if you want me to employ a joint direct attack munition,
Right.
I'm going to need some time.
Right.
And they said, no. And so I went to the Stennis, got carrier qualified.
What?
Flew out to the USS Roosevelt, did one sortie, which was really to get me my carrier current again. During that 1.5 hour, we were on a secure radio, and they were walking me through the employment weapons switchology to employ the weapons.
No.
Day 2, over Turkey, over Incirlik, turning south into northern Iraq. Swear to God.
You
my
are
God.
shitting me.
Yeah, no, it was nuts.
Literally hands-on HOTAS class.
Yeah. HOTAS class over
Hands-on
secure
drop
radio.
stick.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, so that was combat deployment number 2, 2003, Shock and Awe in Iraq.
And so
coming in
Crap,
from the
I
north.
thought you said that was the ring finger on the left hand.
So would you guys take off, refuel, and then go in, or take off, go in, come back, hit a tanker on the way out to make it back?
So all of the ops in Afghanistan and Iraq were traditionally 4.5 to 6 hours. So
You're tanking
we
somewhere.
would take off,
Yeah.
fly for about an hour and a half, tank, go in for an hour, vulnerability window.
Yeah.
Come back out if you still had ordnance, tank again, go back in for a second vulnerability window, tank a third time, head back to the ship and land. And so they would try to schedule 4.5 to 6 hours, depending on the coverage. But sometimes you'd get extended to 7.5.
That's rough, dude.
And you could do that maybe 3 days in a row. But for the listeners, the ejection seats are not Barca loungers.
No, they're not.
They're
Not a lot of
hard,
cushion in those bad
firm
boys.
seats. And I can remember when I was CO in Afghanistan, after 3 of those events in a row, I'd have to have the crew chiefs come in and kind of help me stand up because your hips are just locked up.
Right.
Your glutes are locked. I mean, you because you've been sitting in one position for 7.5 hours on ejections.
Yeah. And where was the ship? Were you guys in the Indian Ocean going over
No,
Pakistan? Or
the Roosevelt, the Roosevelt was off the eastern coast of Cyprus in the Eastern Med.
Okay.
And there were 2 carriers, a day and a night carrier coming in from the north to hit Tikrit, Mosul, and some of the northern cities as the as we collapsed onto
I'm thinking,
Baghdad.
I don't know. I just confused Afghanistan with Iraq. Sorry.
Oh yeah, and then in the south there were 2 carriers also as we supported the troops north and south as they came into Baghdad. And then in Afghanistan we were in the North Arabian Sea, and we would fly kind of right along the Iranian border, but in Pakistan. Same thing, hour and a half, tank, couple of vulnerability windows depending on the ordnance that you had remaining and what they needed. And then we'd fly back over Pakistan, go land on the ship.
What they call that? Not the highway.
It was the highway.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
but they had a name for it. There was a name for it.
Yeah.
It was the oh damn it, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I was on that a lot. All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we go any further, I just want to say thank you for your service. By the way,
Amen.
I want to say. I feel the need to tell a combat veteran, a fellow combat veteran, thank you for your service.
Well, I appreciate that. I always feel a little bit silly when somebody says that, because I really truly embraced every moment of it. And for the listeners, I would say don't only thank the veteran, thank the family members, right? Because they were the ones who were at home.
Oh, you got that right.
Concerned, and they serve equally the same way that the service member does, for sure.
Yeah. No, they do indeed. The families are amazing, and some of the Marine sailors, soldiers, and airmen manage to do it without good support from the families. But boy, it makes your life a whole lot easier. All credit to those on the home front who keep things running, because it's miserable without that kind of support. So
well, I appreciate you saying that, though. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Intake. Is there any particular mission that sticks out that you think about a lot that was pivotal
or you try not to think
or you
about
try not to think about anymore? Is something funny, scary from your combat tours?
Oh, 2003 and 5. So that was my departmented tour. 2003 was Shagana. We went back in 2005. I was operations officer of VFA 15. And now we were in the Persian Gulf, going up into the south. And that's when Fallujah and Ramadi were taking place. So we were looking for a lot of IEDs and trying to isolate and neutralize anybody that we saw putting them in, or supporting ground forces. And they were coming down the Tigris River out of Syria. And so I can remember employing against a bit of a stronghold right on the Syrian border. And again, this is 2005. So Syrian operations hadn't even kicked off. Still in Iraq, neutralizing a weapons cache in that general area. That was big secondaries coming out of that.
You're being talked on by some forward air controllers on the ground, or
joint tactical air control. Joint tactical air controller on the ground, right, with a 9-line running in, dropping, and you're lasing. And for the listeners, the lasing, you're guiding your own weapon in on this laser spot that you are putting, and that can be super stressful because the laser can get masked without getting into the details. But then when you see the weapon hit the laser mark, it's pretty awesome.
It's like, yes. Well, repeat. I'm going to press on unless you've got.
Yeah, no, I think we're getting close to. So you had command of a Hornet squadron, and then you were on to being selected the first Navy F-35 commanding officer.
Yeah, so just to fill in a couple of the gaps there, I did the departmented tour was Iraq 3 and 5, and then I was an aide to Northern Command and Pacific Command. Getting to sit in meetings with Secretary Rumsfeld, President Bush. You can see him up over here over my shoulder, and very high level, kind of a PhD in leadership. It was incredible. The admiral that I worked for allowed me to come into all of those meetings. I selected F-18 Command while I was in that tour, and then did the 13 of 17 months in Afghanistan, supporting Operation Enduring Freedom, and then was selected to be the requirements officer for F-35 in the Pentagon. And so I went, and that was 2010.
Let me stop you right there. The year that you were in command of the F-18, what squadron was that?
The VFA 83 Rampagers. Yeah, and we won the Battle E and the Safety S. the Michael J. Astosian Award. We had an incredible squadron. It was amazing.
That's outstanding. And was that 09? 2009?
I checked in as the XO in 8, took command in 9, and left in October of 10.
So did you do, were you guys deployed 2009, 2010 timeframe?
Yeah, 2009 and 10. So pre-McChrystal, when we were just employing at will, and then McChrystal took over as the ISAF commander, and he changed his tactical directive. So it became a little more stingy on what you could employ on, which was a little frustrating, right? Because you support the ground forces and deliver ordnance.
I've been in Afghanistan and during that time frame.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to that. I'll let you buy the beers.
Okay.
There you go.
You know I will. You know I'm gonna.
Lead intake. So, I know I've got a quick one. We've glossed over, and then we can move into. You filled in some gaps, and then we'll go into that first F-35. But we get asked this a lot. When we forget, we get reminded. How did?
Yeah. So
Call sign. Yeah, how'd that happen?
I do a lot of corporate training, and I used to ask when I was a little bit heavier, hey, where do you think intake came from? And when people started saying you eat a lot is when I kind of stopped asking the crowd. Actually, if I turn to the profile repeat so your viewers could see it, I have a big nose. I take in more than my fair share of air, just like a jet engine. That's where intake comes from.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
Well, at least it wasn't a self-inflicted stupidity wound like so many.
No, there were plenty of opportunities, and you've heard some of them today.
Yeah,
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Holy smokes! All right, so
Well, we were talking offline. You were the requisition officer for. Was it the F-35 program?
Procurement and requirements for the F-35 in the Pentagon. And thank goodness I was only there for about 10 months because that place will suck the patriotism right out of you. No offense to those who make it a career, but I consider myself much more of an operator. And then they were standing up the first F-35 unit in Eglin Air Force Base, VFA 101, the Grim Reapers, a legendary Tomcat fleet replacement squadron. And they needed a CO. And I had just come off an exceptionally operational F-18 command. I was the F-35 requirements officer, so I was selected and approved by the Chief of Naval Operations to go stand up the Navy's first stealth fighter squadron, which was incredible, right? What an honor.
okay. Is that when you crossed paths with Nasty? Admiral Manassi?
So I was with Nasty in the Pentagon.
Okay.
With him and what they call the ranch N98. Where I
that's
worked
what I was thinking.
directly with Nasty,
Procurements and requisition. Is that not the Pentagon?
Yep. That's correct. Correct.
Okay. Right.
I'm sorry, repeat. I thought we were transitioning to Eglin. Yeah, I was with Nasty.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't follow my lead. Keep going down the right path. No, I was just curious when you were talking about procurements and requisition. I thought that's when you had crossed with Nasty. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, worked very closely with him. A great American.
Intake. What year was it that you went to Eglin to stand up the FA 101 Green Reapers as an F-35?
2001. So I went down there. The command had not commissioned
right.
that.
Right.
But
you mean 2010?
I'm sorry, 2011. 2011.
Okay.
2011. I went down to Eglin. Technically, I was number 7 to check into the command, but they gave me a bunch of hand-picked, incredible department heads that were all 05s. And so a lot of people think, first stealth fighter squadron had to be exceptionally difficult. Well, I'd had command before, but it was actually really great because the supporting group that I had was so talented that we were able to blow it up and expand it into the first stealth fighter squadron in the U.S. Navy inventory. But I certainly didn't do it alone, that's for sure.
Right. Well, no, but I can see why they put the top performing people in there because, it's a new program. You can't afford to have it fail. You can't afford self-inflicted stupidity wounds by
Yeah.
And then
standing
how
up.
long?
That's awesome.
So how long were you guys in Eglin? Did you ever move the squadron while you had it to Oceania or?
No, so we stood up VFA 101, the Grim Reapers, and built it out. We were waiting for delivery of the first airplane. There was talks of moving it to Lemoore, but Eglin was going to be the F-35 Center of Excellence. The Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy were all there. And I was actually pushing really hard for that because it would have been a center of excellence and delay Lemoore or delay Oceania because it's supposed to be this collaborative joint platform weapon system, 9 partner nations. But as it turns out, we don't play that well with each other as far as philosophies and operation, philosophies and training. And so the Marine Corps, as you know, pulled their F-35s to Yuma, and the Navy pulled them to Lemoore. But at that point, I had left the Navy, retired, and had moved on.
So is that when you became a Hollywood stunt pilot?
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Because I mean, this is pretty awesome, man. So tell us how. So you transitioned out of the Navy, and so I know what the Patriot jet team is because I've seen them fly at the Fleet Week before. Actually, it's probably you I saw flying.
I would hope so. Yeah.
But so how does that take place?
So I was at San Francisco Fleet Week, didn't know the Patriot jet team existed, happened to bump into them where they were parking their airplanes. And the number 6 pilot at the time was on the Blue Angels with me, banker. And I bumped into him. How's the wife? How are the kids? Hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And he says, "Hey, Endick, we're looking for a guy. Are you interested?" And all of my successes come from having said yes to so many things. And I
Right.
said, "Yes, I'm interested." And 2 weeks later, I'm doing loops to music in an L-39 with the owner of the team, and they offered me the position of his number 5 pilot, and which I took because lightning doesn't strike twice very often. And
Sure.
and so it's an incredible team, former Thunderbirds, former Blues, exceptionally competent non-military pilots, and I have flown with them now since 2017. So in my 6th year with them. But in 2018, the owner, Howler, combined with K2, who is a helicopter pilot in Hollywood, and they combined and put together a company called Cinejet to put in a bid for the cinematography contract for Maverick. They won the bid because Randy had the jet. They mounted Kevin's cameras on there, and they won the contract. And so Randy, based on my combat experience, said, "Hey, will you come help us train Glenn and Monica and all the actors and actresses?" And I said, "Sure, that'd be great." So we went out to LA, Camarillo, spent a couple of days training everybody in the jet, getting them used to high aspect, talking to them about BFM, talking to them about anti-G straining maneuver, before they went into the F-18. That was December of 2018. And then in 2019, Howler called and said, "Hey, they need someone to fly the final fight sequence in Maverick. Will you do it?" And what do you think I said?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. And so July of 2019, we went and spent 2 weeks flying 3 times a day, filming that final sequence when Maverick and Rooster steal the F-14 and then crash landed. So sorry, that's a long story, but it's
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it all pieces together.
So where were you flying out of? Was that in the Sierra Nevadas that we were looking at with the snow on them and everything? Where was that?
Yeah, a lot of it was out of Whidbey in the Olympic range, and then also out of China Lake and Tahoe Reno, Truckee Reno.
Yeah.
And so the work that we did was out of Chico, with the canyons with the big granite walls, and where we're 30 feet over the river. That was all over by a place called Lake Orville, which is now full. And the Middle Fork of the Feather River is where we did that filming.
Okay.
Well, that's pretty darn awesome.
And then the water work was back in Camarillo out off the Channel Islands.
Okay.
It was intense. It was crazy intense.
So,
I've got a question.
how much time
Having
did
seen the movie?
Yeah.
They barricaded, right? The Tomcat at the end.
Yep.
How is that CGI or did they?
Yeah, CGI.
Okay.
CGI. They brought a Tomcat in from my understanding. I wasn't part of that, but they brought a Tomcat in, put it on the deck of the carrier. I think they got it on loan from one of the museums in San Diego, like the Midway.
Okay.
And then created that scene.
Okay. Yeah, because I was looking at that. Go. Really?
Wait,
I don't think they.
hold on a second. Wait just a second.
Oh, sorry.
You mean they weren't flying an F-14 in the movie and it didn't take a barricade without a... Hold on a second. I got to process this.
They wouldn't have paid me enough to crash a F-14 into the barricade on the back of a ship. No, thanks.
Well,
What could go wrong?
was that a fun experience?
It was
unbelievable.
Super intense. Yeah, I mean, it was all below 100 feet, super close to each other, right? To make it look right, correctly on film. I mean, it's really tight nose to tail. It's really tight to the canyon walls.
And you had the actors in your back seat.
Not for the final fight scene.
Okay.
Not for the final fight scene. They were in the back of the F-18s, but all the F-18 footage was filmed by active duty military personnel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we didn't have anybody in our back seats when we were doing all that filming. But
so you were chasing them. You were chasing them to film it. The final fight scene.
Well, so Howler
or you were
and I,
filming.
We flew both the role of the Tomcat and the role of the Su-57, and so there were multiple Su-57s. Now we would show up in the morning. We'd see a storyboard, right, a two-dimensional cartoon of the image that they wanted for the film, and then we would determine how we could get that image on film with the camera crews, walk through it, talk about it, mitigate the risk, and then go out and try to capture it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was really intense. I mean, we would fly under helicopters, and the helicopters were under 100 feet, and it was just nutty.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty awesome. And you're still flying. You're still flying with the Patriot.
I do still get to fly the number 5 jet for the Patriot jet team. We should be in San Francisco. It is an absolute thrill every time I do it. It's a remarkable team of professionals. That's how it's an adrenaline rush.
So do you guys, how many air shows do you guys do a year? I mean, just average.
Well, post-COVID, we were probably doing 8 pre-COVID. The last year and a half, we've probably done 7 in total. We think that 2024, as the world is back into a normal rhythm, that we'll do more. They're almost all on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona.
That makes it logistically a little easier. Any issues with scheduling from your current employer? To get that done?
No, full support, which is really great. It's all volunteer. We don't get paid. We just do it for the love of the game, if you will, to include the maintenance personnel. And, everybody likes to have a team and be part of a group or a tribe. And, the Patriot jet team is, I just love it. It makes me really happy. When they offered me the job, I called my wife and said, "Hey, they offered me the job." And she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, Lisa, it makes me really happy. Like I feel alive." And she said, "Well, then you should do it." And so, and that was 6 years ago. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, you definitely married above your pay grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you asking about that. So the Blue Angels Foundation is kind of a juggernaut of fundraising because of the brand of the Blue Angels. And I was asked to be on the board of the Blue Angels Foundation. And we raise money to primarily help prevent veteran suicide and provide the funding required for outpatient or inpatient PTSD treatment. We also help provide funding for canines to help service veterans transition both with their mental health and their physical health. And we are partnered with Freedom Station in San Diego, which is transitional housing. And so I'll tell a story that is very impactful, not to bring everything down, but how what a pivotal moment it was for my life. So both of my kids went to the Naval Academy, and our oldest son, his roommate was Vaughn. And in November 5th, 2021, I'm at the 75th reunion for the Blue Angels. Same story that I told about Jungle. Friday night, we walk into our hotel room. The kids are there. It's a really great event. And Wyatt, my son, gets a phone call that Vaughn had taken his own life. Oh. And I had lost another squadron mate who had committed suicide. My mother had tried to commit suicide twice when I was in high school. And so it was a real pivotal moment for me where I went out on the balcony of the hotel at Pensacola Beach and was just sobbing, like collapsed. And at that moment, I realized that I have a voice, I have a platform, and I can do good. And so it's what I want to do with the remainder of my active days. And I hope to be buried in Arlington someday. I don't need my tombstone to say Blue Angel, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bronze Star, Maverick. Doesn't have to say anything. If it says saved veterans' lives, that's victory. And so I'm really committed to it. And the cause, and I'm just impassioned by it. Our veterans need a lot of help.
So how do you find that? Like for listeners, if they wanted to be involved or wanted to donate.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So the blueangelsfoundation.org, plural, blueangelsfoundation.org. You can donate right there. You can also text BAF to the number 91999, and you can donate. It's all tax deductible. We have a 5-star rating with Charity Navigator. It's all volunteer, and we are saving lives, and it feels really good. And so for your listeners,
it sounds like the money that they give actually goes
to where it needs to go.
It goes to the veterans. And a lot of people will say, well, the VA should be taking care of them. Yeah, well, the mentality as warfighters yourselves, the mentality of the warfighter is not to go and acknowledge, especially to a government agency, that you want some sort of mental health treatment. We don't even talk about being physically injured. And so these private organizations like the Blue Angels Foundation provides anonymity, continuity of care, and get them the help that they need without judgment, ridicule, fear of some sort of career retaliation. And so that's why the private organizations exist. I appreciate you letting me share that story.
That's awesome. And that's something that I know Repeat is, and I am also very passionate about.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, combat is different for everybody, but it's really different for somebody that's actually on the ground than somebody that's sitting in an air-conditioned cockpit.
Yeah, and just the effects that it has on your family. I mean, you leave for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and there are challenges. And so
secondary side effects that nobody thinks about.
And you're making life and death decisions in a combat scenario. Then you come back and you have a hard time getting a job as an Amazon driver, or you go from this level of responsibility to not having the ability to make any decisions based on whatever career field you've got into, and it's hard to adjust. Here's the best way I can explain it, if I can, and I don't know how much time we have left. If your listeners have a favorite football team, right? So say your favorite football team is the Packers, right? And you live in Wisconsin, you live in Green Bay, and you put on your Packers jersey and your cheese head, and you go to the tailgate or your neighborhood barbecue, and everybody's cheering and rooting, and the Packers score, and you're hugging, and it's just an incredible event, right? Because that's your team. And then imagine on Monday, they say, hey, we're going to need that uniform back. We're going to need the jersey. We're going to need the cheese head. And you can't come to these parties anymore. The sense of loss and emptiness is the same way that when you leave the service, you don't have your uniform anymore. You don't have your team. You don't have your unit. You don't have your organization.
Well, that's probably one of the best analogies I've ever heard.
No, that is by far the best analogy I've ever heard, dude. I mean, that is spot on. Really?
Yeah.
Did you come up with that yourself?
I did. Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Check
You
out
should
the
write a
brain.
book.
on
You should write a
Intakes.
book.
Hey, you should write a book, bro.
If there was a book that describes all of these things,
I would,
So-
I might call it, I don't know. If I was writing a book and I was you, I'd say like, Full Throttle. from
Dude,
the Blue
Full
Angels to
Throttle is
Hollywood
what I'd
Stunt
call
Pilot.
it. Full Throttle.
I have
I
lived
know.
my life at full throttle for sure, and it has been it continues to be a wild ride.
Where can I get that
great.
book?
Yeah,
So-
where would a guy find a book called Full Throttle that talks
Yes.
about incredible leadership stories and, things like that?
Yeah, Full Throttle from the Blue Angels to Hollywood Stunt Pilot is available online anywhere, but primarily, you can get it fast on Amazon. 20% of the proceeds go towards the Blue Angels Foundation.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
And
That's a selling point right there, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So order it. Know that you're doing good. The majority of profits go to help our veterans. I just wrote it to share my story, my experiences, hopefully inspire all ages to say yes to opportunity, learn from failure. And I have shared some very personal failures here on your show. And
Thank you
ask
for
for
that.
help. Ask for help when you need it, both from a career perspective, from a mental health perspective. People want to help. Ask.
Hey, how difficult is it to get a book published these days?
From beginning to end was about a year for me. But
Did you enjoy writing? Was it therapeutic to write that book?
It was. Yeah, it was. And then tying the narrative together, and I asked for assistance. I got an editor. I got some people that were involved in books. I sent it to people to read it and proof it, putting the pictures together. And so my dad, who has dementia, had always said, "You have the most outrageous stories. You should write a book." And so that's kind of the reason that I finally got off my ass, is because he's not going to be with us much longer. And so I wrote it. It's good for veterans, and hopefully it has some stories in there that'll speak to readers.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and you can't maybe perfectly acceptable answer, but I'm wondering, could somebody get an autographed copy of your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do that all
How
the
do they
time.
do that?
I mean, if you and you could post my address if you want,
Okay.
somewhere on your webpage.
We could
But
do
if
that.
someone
We'll
wants to, you
post
can
it,
buy it.
we'll post it on the so there I was.us on the blog post that is your show, which will be
Yeah,
episode
and so
66.
you can absolutely order a book off of Amazon. Use my address, send it to me. I'll sign it for you and launch it right back at you.
Nice.
In fact, I just dropped 3 books off at the post office today.
That's pretty awesome, dude.
Other readers that have done that. So happy to do it. All of the things that I've been able to do, I just want to share. I've been fortunate, and I'm happy to share my journey from watching Top Gun to performing in Top Gun, and now
That's pretty
Being in high
that's
school,
pretty
watching
incredible.
Top Gun to being one of
Right.
the stunt pilots on Top Gun Maverick.
So not exactly that story, because I had already signed the dotted line and was going to officer candidate school.
yeah,
The month that came out. Okay, the movie. And
Yeah.
but when I went to Marine Corps officer candidate school that summer of '86, I was candidate Top Gun.
were you really?
Well, that's anybody that had an air contract was just candidate Top Gun.
Right.
So candidate Top Gun, drop down, give me 9,000 push-ups, candidate Top Gun. It's like I hate that movie.
Yeah.
I was already in before the movie came out. I was like, no, this is what I want to do. And then that movie came along, and now I'm candidate Top Gun.
Yeah, but you try to explain that to a drill instructor, and
Oh, no,
it's
no,
just
no,
gonna-
yeah.
then you're
There's
going
no
to do
explaining anything to those
18,000
guys.
push-ups. So, right.
There was none of that.
We're just
okay,
a
and
punchline to those guys.
Yeah.
Now this is just for your entertainment intake. I'm telling my wife, I said, listen, I gotta get back. So I'm on vacation right now. I said, I gotta get back. I'm interviewing this guy. Well, just tell me about him. And I said, well, here. And I showed her the bio and the whole thing. And I go, a little side note for you. I go, he was one of my flight students when I was an instructor in Kingsville. And she got real serious and she goes, well, he obviously did all that because you were such a great leader and taught him. And I go, dude, I don't even remember him. He's the one that told me that I was one of his instructors. But
I
once again,
remember you, Fig, and your wife is dead accurate.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Fig,
listen,
you're just lucky she didn't go, well, what the hell's wrong with you then? Why didn't you do all this cool stuff?
yeah, why weren't you a Top Gun movie stunt pilot and a Blue Angel? I'm like, well, honey, I tried. I just wasn't that cool.
That's great.
No, we all married. I mean, I seriously married way above my pay grade. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the fighter pilot upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Boy,
They're impressed that we're fighter pilots, and then they realize that we act like 13-year-olds, and then they become wildly unimpressed.
Yeah. My wife refers to me. She describes me to her friends as I'm married to a pinball.
Yeah.
Because I never sit. I can't sit down. I can't.
Oh, Big, I'm with you. I'm in constant motion. It's
Constant motion.
I'm actually more like a light switch. I'm either on or I'm off.
I think, and that's something that we all have in common. All of us that do this kind of job, come from this background, is we are a switch.
Yeah.
You're on or you're off. There's not really
now
nothing.
that I hit my 60s, I tend to find myself in the off position for an hour or so in the middle of the damn day. What the hell happened?
That's a micro off.
Yeah,
That's just momentarily, just a quick recharge.
Fighter
repeat.
nap.
That's
Fighter nap.
Fighter
That's
nap.
all. Yeah, they're just longer.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm kind of out of questions. Is there something that I haven't thought of? Repeat or intake? What do you think?
The only other question I saw was EMBA student.
Denver University.
Denver University. Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting my executive MBA right now,
Nice.
primarily because I wanted to get kind of a background in finance a little bit deeper. As an accountant, I have an interest in that, and so I wanted to sharpen my skills. I had the time to do it, at least I thought awesome. I did, but then I decided to write a book and go to school. And so,
there's that.
And then you got your other job, the other thing that kind of takes it's a time suck. Yeah,
that's right. And so, but I intend to use all of that with the Blue Angels Foundation.
Hey, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Can't use it forward. Yeah.
Do you have to be a former Blue Angel to be involved in the Blue Angel Foundation?
No, we have some really talented people with skill sets. Blue Angels are okay at flying airplanes. We're pretty good at glad handing and shaking hands and telling stories in recruiting, if you will, because that's our primary mission. But fundraising is kind of a different beast. And until you make the transition of being able to ask in a professional, respectful manner, but what you find is most donors actually, they show up at events expecting to be asked. So make the ask. And if they can, they will. And if they can't, that's okay too. Keep asking.
All right. So real quickly again, revisit that then for me. It was
it's blueangelsfoundation.org or B, and then there was a text BAF.
BAF, the letters for Blue Angels Foundation. BAF to 91999. And you can get the book from Amazon or go to scottcartfett.com and you can purchase it there also. And I appreciate you letting me make those shameless plugs.
Absolutely.
The veterans I could make all day long with the Blue Angels Foundation.
Yeah.
It's a little humbling to push the book, but I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your service, both in service and post service. And because you apparently don't know how to quit, you're still doing it. So thank you for that. And God bless you.
Man. Thanks for joining us and sharing your stories. And listen, if we sign off, if you think of something, make some bullet points. Because we'll have you back for a refresh.
Come back.
I'll whet your appetite a little bit. October and November, I got a call from Tom, and he asked me to go participate in a movie. Another movie that I can't talk about, but I spent some time in October and November working with Tom on a follow-on movie.
His buddy Tom. Not Mr. Cruz. That's awesome.
That tantalizes the imagination a little bit. Thank you for that.
Just a little bit. It'll leave maybe we'll get the chance to talk about that when that movie releases.
All right, excellent. Would you come back and visit with us at some point?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a treat. I enjoyed it. It's just a couple of Navy pilots sitting around BSing. Who doesn't love that?
Oh, I know where I was going with this. That's kind of what that's what brought this podcast on. Really, was we wanted to have a platform so guys could tell their stories, and that's why we're here, really, to get guys to tell their stories. And we've had some great stories, and we got some outstanding stories from you. So thank you.
We do indeed. Well, it is time to land the airplane. So thank you for your service. Thank you for coming on, and you've said you'll come back, and we're going to hold you to that. So thank you. I also want to thank. We've got 3 new Patreon pilots with us this week, Fig. We got Jonathan Knuckles, Justin Lundberg-Neff, and some dude named Vapor have all joined as Patreon pilots. So
Vapor and Knuckles as in Dragger. Let's
Most likely.
So, yeah, Knuckles Dragger. Yeah.
Well, thanks to all 3 of you gents. That's awesome, man. That is really awesome.
Yeah. That if Jonathan Knuckles wasn't a pilot, that
call sign Dragger would be good.
Call sign Dragger. So, let's see what else. We got to thank the folks over at Backbeat Media, one by the name of Dave Hamilton, who helped us put this podcast on the air so you can hear these great stories. The Patreon pilots help keep the engines running, to keep them coming to you. Dave Hamilton gives us the knowledge to make it right. And then I'm wearing the shirt. If you're watching on video, Fig's wearing the hat. The merch store. How do we get to the merch store?
Shit, I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Wait, hold on a second. Is it so there I
Pop
was?
quiz. There you
so
go.
there I was. .us/merch.
There you go.
Boom.
See? Easy to remember. Easy to remember.
It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. Hey, we have awesome merch, including a bikini.
Yeah. When this podcast comes out, we'll have a new sponsor that we'll be welcoming on board, Babbel. Thank you for their support to help keep the show coming to you. One of the more important things is the glossary page. Man, we keep hitting all these acronyms and these terms, and so there was.
I didn't hear any new ones tonight, other than the BAF, which we already said was the Blue Angel Foundation.
That's a good one and easy. We hit Rad Out last week, which I was surprised wasn't on there. Radar altimeter. So, but that's there. Fig, if someone wanted to ask you a question via email, how would they do that?
They can send it to fig@sothereiwas.us.
Or send me one at repeat@sothereiwas.us, REPETE. If you got any whirly-bird questions, send them to sticks@sothereiwas.us.
Whirling death trap of parts spinning.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we've sadly come to the end of our time together tonight. Wait, I think I hear something. My hearing's not so good after all these jet engines. You hear?
I'm hearing it, and I'm telling you, I know that sound. That is the sound of the Dos Gringos, the 2 F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good.
Yeah, they do.
Great
songs.
For
coming on the show.
Great songs.
You listen to them?
Oh yeah, they're hilarious. My kids still in training listen to them. But those gringos live on in fighter aviation.
Oh yeah. It is. They're fighter pilot legend songs, man. They really are.
Yeah,
they're awesome. They're awesome indeed. So thank you, gents, for letting us use your music to help make our show even better. We can't thank you enough. So until next week, everyone, stay safe. Check 6.
Don't sit on the ejection seat handle.
Right. And don't sit on the collective either, Fig. Just saying.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What do you say, Fig?
It's over.
Piece of cake.
Okay.